Some songs don't announce themselves. They slip into the world quietly, barely noticed, sometimes dismissed entirely. Radio stations skip them, critics shrug, record labels move on to the next release, and then, somehow, years later, everything changes. These are the songs that failed first. Songs that flopped. Songs that should have disappeared forever but didn't. Instead, they found their audience slowly, year by year, decade by decade, until the world finally caught up and realized what it had been missing all along. You think you know the 80s. You know the hits, the anthems, the songs that dominated MTV. You know the tracks that filled the dance floors, the ballads that played at every prom, the power anthems that defined the era. But this is the other side of the story, the side where rejection came first and greatness came later, the side the documentaries don't always tell. 10 songs, 10 comebacks, every one of them nearly forgotten before becoming unforgettable. Let's count them down. If you're loving this trip back through the hidden stories of 80s music, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where in the world you're tuning in from tonight and which 80s song still gives you chills. Number 10, Don't You Forget About Me by Simple Minds. Here's the strange part. The band didn't even want to record it. They were a Scottish group with their own direction, their own sound, their own identity, and then someone handed them a song written by an outside team, asked them to record it, and they almost refused outright. They thought it wasn't them. They thought it didn't fit their style. They recorded it quickly, almost reluctantly, in a single afternoon, and moved on, assuming it would disappear into a film soundtrack and never be heard from again. They didn't even expect it to be released as a single in most markets. The single barely made a ripple at first. In their home country, it didn't even crack the top spots for weeks. Radio stations weren't entirely sure what to do with it. The band themselves didn't want to promote it. For all intents and purposes, it looked like a throwaway, a contractual obligation, a favor done for a film producer. Then the movie came out. Suddenly that opening drum hit, that soaring chorus, that feeling of something just slightly out of reach, all of it became attached to an entire generation's memory of growing up. A song they didn't want to make became the one song everyone would remember them for. And here's where it gets interesting. The band spent years complaining about it, trying to distance themselves from it, trying to prove they were more than this single track. They released other records, they toured, they reinvented themselves multiple times, but the song kept winning, kept showing up in films, commercials, reunions, montages, because sometimes the thing you reject hardest is the thing that refuses to let you go. Today, it's almost impossible to imagine the decade without it. That's the strange power of songs like this. They don't ask for your permission, they just become part of the air. Number 9, Take On Me by a-ha. This one didn't just flop, it flopped twice, maybe even 3 times depending on how you count. It's one of the most famous examples of persistence paying off in music history, though most listeners have no idea just how close it came to never being heard. The first version came out in one country and did almost nothing. The band went back into the studio, reworked it, released it again, and watched it fail a second time. Most groups would have given up at that point. Most labels would have cut their losses and moved on to the next project. But someone believed in this song enough to try a third time. They re-recorded it again with a new producer, a new arrangement, and a new energy. Still, the song needed something more to break through. So they commissioned a music video, a strange hand-drawn pencil sketch animation that blended live action with illustration in a way nobody had really seen before. The video took months to produce. It was expensive, it was risky, it was almost entirely unprecedented. That video changed everything. The song that had been rejected twice suddenly became impossible to ignore. It climbed charts around the world, it won awards, it became one of the defining songs of the decade, a track that somehow feels both completely of its era and oddly timeless at the same time. And here's what makes it stick. That impossibly high note in the chorus, the one everyone tries and fails to hit at karaoke, almost got cut. The singer wasn't sure he could deliver it consistently in live performances. The producer pushed him, he hit it, and the rest became history. The lesson buried inside this story is simple. Sometimes the difference between a hit and a forgotten song is just refusing to accept the first answer. Number 8. Africa by Toto.
I hear the drums echoing tonight, and she hears only...
The band didn't think it was a hit, not even close. They considered it one of the strangest things they'd ever recorded, a personal side project from one member who'd never even been to the continent he was writing about. It was a deeply personal piece, built from fragments of imagination that didn't really belong on a mainstream rock album. The lyrics were pieced together from images seen on television, from things read in magazines, from a kind of romantic distance that made the song feel almost dreamlike. There were references nobody at the label fully understood. There were lines that seemed almost nonsensical when read on paper. One famous lyric about blessing the rains has puzzled listeners for years. When it was released as a single, the label had relatively low expectations. It wasn't even supposed to be the lead track from the album. It was tucked deep into the track list, expected to be a curiosity at best, a deep cut for hardcore fans. And for a while, that's exactly what it was. But slowly, something started happening. Radio began picking it up, then more stations, then everywhere. That strange layered production, those floating keyboards, that chorus that felt like it was carrying something ancient and modern at the same time, started working its way into the cultural bloodstream.
Melodies. He turned to me.
The unique percussion, the soaring harmonies, the cinematic atmosphere, all of it combined into something unforgettable. It climbed to number 1, then it faded from the conversation for years, becoming one of those songs people remembered but rarely talked about. And then, decades later, a new generation rediscovered it, turned it into an internet phenomenon, covered it in every imaginable style, and made it bigger than it ever was the first time around. Are you enjoying this video? If you are, please hit the like button. I'd sincerely appreciate it. Today you can't escape it. It plays in coffee shops, at sporting events, in film soundtracks, at weddings. A song the band almost didn't include on the album became their defining legacy. Number 7. Tainted Love by Soft Cell. Here's something most people don't realize. This wasn't even an original song. It was a cover of a track from years earlier that had barely registered when it first came out. A soul song by an artist most people had never heard of, lost in the shuffle of countless other releases from that era. When the duo decided to record their version, the original writer wasn't exactly enthusiastic. The label wasn't sure either. Synth pop was still finding its footing as a genre, and the idea of two guys with keyboards reworking an obscure soul track didn't sound like a guaranteed hit to anyone involved. The early reception matched those low expectations. Critics were unsure, programmers were cautious, and then the song started to move. Slowly at first, then relentlessly. It didn't just become a hit, it became a chart phenomenon, staying on the charts for an incredible stretch that broke records that had stood for years. It spent more time on the charts than almost any song of its era, refusing to let go long after other tracks came and went. The irony is that the band never quite escaped it. They wanted to be taken seriously as artists. They made more experimental music. They pushed in different directions. But this song, the one that started as a reworking of a forgotten original, became their defining moment, the track that would follow them forever. And that's what makes it fascinating. Two relatively quiet releases combined became one of the most recognizable songs of the decade. Some records don't need to start strong, they just need someone to believe in them long enough to let them breathe. There's something almost poetic about it. A song about rejection and heartbreak became the unlikely success story that proved the music industry doesn't always know what it's doing. Number 6. Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. When this song came out, it performed reasonably well, but not spectacularly. It cracked the charts, earned critical attention, and then settled into the category of respected but not essential. The kind of song admired by other musicians, studied by writers, and overlooked by casual listeners. For decades, that's where it lived. Fans knew it, artists cited it as an influence. But in the bigger picture of what defined the decade, it wasn't the song people reached for first. It was almost too strange, too personal, too built around its own internal logic to compete with more immediate hits. It demanded attention in a way that mainstream audiences didn't always want to give. The themes were unusual for a pop song. A song built around the idea of trading places with someone you love, of truly understanding them by becoming them. The production was equally distinctive, driven by drum machines and synths that felt both of their moment and outside of it. It didn't sound like anything else on the radio. Then something happened that nobody could have predicted. Nearly 4 decades after its release, a television show featured it in a pivotal scene, using the song not as background music but as a central emotional anchor for the entire storyline. Within days, it was everywhere. Streaming numbers exploded, a new generation of listeners discovered it for the first time, and suddenly, the song that had been quietly brilliant for decades became a #1 hit in countries where it had never even charted the first time around. It wasn't a flop exactly, it was something stranger, a song that was simply waiting for the right moment, waiting for the culture to catch up to what it had been saying all along. That kind of patience is rare in music. Most songs get their moment or they don't. But this one had 2 moments, separated by almost 40 years, and the second was somehow bigger than the first. Number 5, Sweet Dreams by Eurythmics.
Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to...
This one came out of desperation. The duo had just come off a project that had gone nowhere. They were broke, they were frustrated, they were on the verge of calling it quits entirely. There were real conversations about whether they should even continue making music together. They borrowed money, bought a drum machine, and set up a recording space in a small room above a warehouse. There was no label support. There was no budget. There was just 2 people with limited resources trying to figure out if they had one more song in them before they gave up for good. What they created was unlike anything the charts were rewarding at the time. It was stark, it was cold, it was built around a repeating synth line that felt almost robotic.
By you. Some of them want to abuse you.
The vocal was half-sung, half-spoken, delivered with a detachment that was almost unsettling. It didn't sound like a hit, it sounded like a statement from artists who had nothing left to lose. Early response was mixed at best. Some radio programmers didn't know what to do with it. It didn't fit easily into any existing format. It wasn't pop enough for pop stations. It wasn't rock enough for rock stations. It was just itself, which in that era could be a serious commercial problem. Then the video hit. That striking, unsettling image of a woman with short orange hair sitting at a boardroom table made the song impossible to ignore. What had been almost invisible suddenly felt unavoidable. MTV played it constantly, audiences responded, and the song that was created on a shoestring budget by a band nearly finished became one of the defining sounds of the decade. A last chance that turned into a beginning. A song built from desperation that became a blueprint for everything that came after. Number 4. I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett. Before it became an anthem, this song lived a very different life. The original version was released years earlier by a different band and went almost completely unnoticed. It barely charted, and then it vanished. It looked like the song was destined to be nothing more than a footnote. Joan Jett heard it and couldn't let it go. She wanted to record it, but when she brought it to the band she was working with at the time, the response was lukewarm. Nobody thought it was special. It sat untouched for years, an idea she kept returning to but couldn't make happen.
And I could tell it wouldn't be long that he was with me.
When she finally recorded her version, the rejection continued. She had been turned down by more than 20 record labels. 20. Nobody wanted to sign her. Nobody believed a woman fronting a rock band singing a raw, stripped-down version of a forgotten track was a viable commercial idea. So she and her manager started their own label, put the song out themselves, and waited. Oh, by the way, I will be posting more videos like this, so please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next video. Okay, on to the next. What happened next was something the industry hadn't expected. The song took off. Not just in the way a normal hit takes off, it became the kind of song that seemed to exist everywhere at once. It sat at the top of the charts for weeks. It played at every party. It became the sound of a particular kind of defiant energy that defined an entire attitude. And the lesson was clear. Sometimes the industry gets it wrong. Sometimes the only way to prove something is to do it yourself, even when everyone around you is telling you it won't work, especially when they're telling you it won't work. Number 3, Don't Stop Believin' by Journey.
Small town girl, living in a lonely world.
When this song came out, it did fine. Not great, not terrible. It became a modest hit, earning a respectable chart position but never reaching the top spot. For a band of their stature, it was considered a solid but unremarkable single, the kind of track that would get some radio play and then fade into the background. In the years that followed, it stayed known, but mostly to dedicated fans. It wasn't the song people pointed to when they talked about the band. It wasn't the track used in greatest hits commercials. It was, at best, a middle-of-the-pack entry in a large catalog. Other songs from the same album were more commercially successful at the time. Something about the structure was unusual, though. The song takes an incredibly long time to reach its chorus. In fact, the chorus everyone recognizes doesn't even arrive until the very end of the track. It's the kind of structural choice that usually dooms a song.
She took the midnight train going.
Most hits need that hook early. This one made you wait. It demanded patience from listeners. Decades later, a television show used it in the final moments of its final episode. The scene cut to black mid-song, in the middle of a note. Viewers either loved it or hated it, but everyone talked about it, everyone shared opinions, everyone had something to say, and overnight the song exploded, not just as a nostalgic revival, but as a full-blown cultural phenomenon. It started showing up at sporting events, in films, at weddings, at every karaoke night in every city. It became one of the most downloaded songs of a previous era, suddenly, impossibly, in the digital age. Younger listeners who weren't even alive when it came out were suddenly singing it word for word. A modest hit became an eternal one. And that strange structural choice, making listeners wait for the payoff, turned out to be exactly why it worked. The delayed chorus became the whole point. Number 2, Tom Sawyer by Rush. Most people don't realize how polarizing this song was when it first came out. For every listener who was captivated by it, there was another who found it completely alienating. Progressive rock was out of fashion. Synthesizers in rock music were still being debated, and the lyrical content sounded closer to poetry than to a standard pop song. Radio stations in many regions didn't know how to handle it. Some played it heavily, others avoided it entirely. Sales were respectable, but it never became the kind of song that dominated the charts. It was the sort of track that split audiences right down the middle, with no clear consensus about whether it was brilliant or baffling. What gave it its second life was something nobody in the band could have predicted. Years after its release, it began showing up as the defining sound of a certain kind of late-night driving.
Writing out the day's events.
A certain kind of solitary listening. It became embedded in films, video games, and television shows that wanted to evoke a specific feeling of introspection and intensity. And then came the drummer. For decades, the drum break in this song has been cited by virtually every major rock drummer as one of the most important performances ever recorded. Young musicians learning the craft spend hours trying to replicate it. Older musicians point to it as the standard against which all others are measured. What failed to dominate the charts succeeded at something harder. It defined a technique, it shaped a generation of players, it became required listening for anyone serious about rock music, even as casual listeners often moved on to simpler fare. Some songs are about the moment. This one outlasted its moment entirely. And that's a kind of success that chart positions can never measure. A song can fail commercially and still become essential. These are different currencies, and this track proved it. Number 1, Bizarre Love Triangle by New Order. This might be the most shocking flop-turned-classic on this entire list. When the song was released, it failed to crack the top 40 in the band's home country. Let that sink in. A song now considered one of the greatest of its era couldn't even make the first page of its own country's charts when it first came out. The reviews at the time were mixed. Some critics dismissed it, others acknowledged it was interesting but not groundbreaking. For a band already known for quiet, moody, introspective material, this song's burst of synth-driven energy was a surprise, and not always a welcome one. Fans of their earlier work weren't sure what to make of it. Record labels and radio programmers weren't sure how to position it. It wasn't pure dance music. It wasn't standard pop. It lived in a space between genres that the industry hadn't fully developed a category for yet. There was no clear home for it on the radio, no obvious playlist where it belonged. But something about the song refused to go away. Club DJs picked it up. Late-night radio latched onto it. Younger bands started citing it as an influence. And slowly, without any major push, it began to grow. The song kept finding new listeners even as it failed to find commercial success. Over time, it did something few songs have ever managed. It became bigger in retrospect than it ever was on release. Artists covered it, films used it in iconic scenes, playlists featured it, and eventually, it was recognized as one of the most important songs of its decade, an influence on virtually every synth-pop and dance-pop record that came after. The song that couldn't break the top 40 became the blueprint for an entire genre. The failure became the foundation, and that's the kind of redemption story that almost never happens in music, where first impressions tend to stick, except this time, they didn't. This time, the song just kept growing until nobody could deny what it was. That's the thing about these songs. They don't follow the rules of how music is supposed to work. The expected path is simple. A song comes out, it either connects immediately or it disappears. There's rarely a middle ground, rarely a second chance. The music industry is built on first impressions, on opening week sales, on immediate impact. But these tracks proved something different. They proved that timing isn't everything, that first impressions can be wrong, that sometimes the industry, the critics, and even the artists themselves get it wrong before the audience gets it right, that the people who think they know what will succeed often have no idea what they're actually looking at. Some of them failed because they were ahead of their time, arriving before listeners were ready for what they were doing. Some of them failed because the production budget was tiny and the promotional support was non-existent. Some of them failed because they didn't fit the formats of their era, living in genre spaces that hadn't been invented yet. And some failed for reasons nobody has ever fully explained, reasons that got lost in the chaos of the music business. But all of them came back. All of them found their audience eventually. All of them became the kind of songs that now feel inevitable, that feel like they were always classics, even though the historical record tells a very different story. The myth of these songs now feels permanent, but the reality of their origins was far more uncertain. And that's worth remembering, because somewhere right now, there's probably a song being released that's getting ignored, that's being dismissed, that won't chart, that will be written off and forgotten by the tastemakers of the moment. And maybe, years from now, it will become the next track added to a list like this, the next example of a comeback that seemed impossible. Because the best songs don't always win the first time. They just refuse to lose forever. They wait. They find their audience slowly. They grow in ways their creators never imagined. And eventually, somehow, they become the soundtrack to lives that hadn't even started when they were first recorded. That's the real power of music. Not the charts, not the awards, not the opening week sales figures, but the quiet, persistent way certain songs refuse to disappear, no matter how many times the world tries to forget them. So which of these surprised you the most? Which one did you always assume was a massive hit from day one, only to learn it almost disappeared? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this countdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around for more Retro Rewind. Thanks for rewinding with us tonight. If this countdown hit the right note, check out the other music breakdowns on your screen right now, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another story from the golden age of music.